Hello and welcome to my Woolly PhD. My name's Liz Scarf and this is a weekly vlog about what I'm currently learning and making in my anthropology PhD, all about wool here in Iceland. And I was hoping to film this outside for you this week, but it's been raining and I'm not taking my laptop out in the rain. So I'm here in where I am. I am in Háskóli Íslands, so the University of Iceland, in some underground area of, there's not many people. Summer holidays here, so there's not a lot of students around. Most of the people here seem to be our summer language school students, so yeah. Anyway, this week, what am I thinking about? Well, it's an odd week because the thing I'm thinking about, I can't make a video about. It's about multi-species mothering. That's what I'm thinking about a lot. Multi-species kinship. But I can't do a video on it yet because it's something I'm probably going to publish about. But what did you think was really interesting? Because I'm so fascinated about this topic of care, which is related. So that's what I'm going to do the video on. But thinking about care with a posthuman lens. So if you're already thinking, yeah, hang in there. As usual, this will be a very clearly thought through, logically progressing talk. No, it won't. Partly because I don't tend to talk about anything on this channel that isn't a bit complex. Partly because anthropology makes everything complex, and partly because I only partly understand the topics that I talk about, because muddling through together is part of the point of the channel. Nothing's kind of fully baked, or hoping I'm not making any kind of this is how it is and this is what I know statements. So the concept of care is studied a lot in anthropology, and just had to pause because I thought someone was walking behind me, but they're walking in front of me and I didn't want to catch anyone on the camera who doesn't want to be there. Anyway, so the concept of care is studied a lot in anthropology. Some of it's just mind-blowing work, but that's maybe because I'm super interested in the topic. So I've studied it mostly in medical anthropology. It's there a lot in that work, but it's also in work that sort of is looking at environmentalism and multi-species existence a lot as well. But traditionally, across many academic disciplines, care was, if it was thought of much of at all, it was really understood as an affective state, so a feeling state, to care about by having some kind of feeling about someone or something, or some kind of moral endeavour, that it was the morally right thing to do to care about an issue or something. And these kinds of definitions make it exclusively an activity, and we will also therefore infer from this that this was exclusively an activity undertaken by humans, and also mostly women, because women are supposedly more fundamentally sentimental than men. Okay, so, and again, it wasn't actually addressed or worked with or explored a lot in many academic traditions, anthropology as well. So it was seen as quite unskilled, quite boring, again, probably because it was perceived as work that women were doing, because it was perceived as an affective state primarily. Of course, if anything that animals might do that look like care would just be relegated to, it's just instinctual behaviour, not affective or moral. And of course, objects can't care. So it's very limiting, very 80s. Actually, it's not even 80s. The decades this kind of would have started changing, most likely sort of led by the nursing discipline in the 60s and 70s. Then other disciplines got on board of like, oh, care could be a really interesting thing to look at and explore. Now, I must say, I've come across this a few times where nursing is just so progressive and ahead of the curve compared to other disciplines about what to pay attention to. Anyway. There is an amazing book I recommend on this topic, and I think I might have talked about it before. I feel like I've got a memory of holding up the pink book at some point. And I will draw from this work, particularly in this talk. It's called Matters of Care by Professor Maria Puig de Bellacasa. I will put this in the show notes at some point, if I remember. She engages a definition of care that I really like, and this is from Joan Tronto and Berenice Fisher, whereby care is, start the quote, Activity that includes everything that we do to maintain, continue and repair our world so that we can live in it as well as possible. That world includes our bodies, ourselves and our environment, all of which we seek to interweave in a complex life-sustaining web." End quote. So there's a lot to unpack in this definition. I'm not going to go through it all, but I would first draw attention, especially if we're thinking posthuman, right, to the we. Who is the we in this definition, right? There's nothing to exclude elephants as being the we, or mushrooms or grass seeds or snails, right? Like, they could be we's as well. So when we think about this definition, care is no longer the domain of humans only, and it places care as an activity, not an affect. Like, you can care, you can do caring activities without having a caring feeling, right? Which is actually a lot of our care work is without caring feelings. If we think about care as an activity, right? So it also means that all these different creatures and persons are doing care all the time as well, or a lot. So yeah, when we constitute care as what we do, not how we feel, I don't know, I think this is really a generative and opening kind of reframe, right? And I must say, I do repeat this a lot in therapy with clients, that love and care aren't the same thing. People can take care of you without loving you, and people can love you without taking care of you. An affect and an action aren't the same thing, and they don't have to be coupled always in every context to be useful or life-affirming or something, or life-sustaining, right? Now, I do need to say here that anthropology doesn't have a fixed definition of care. Fixed definitions they're not really what anthropology is about, because creating fixed definitions often simplifies and collapses things, whereas anthropology is just like, get into this tiny little thing and like, make it super complex, which is what I love about it. But it also means we don't have the comfort of easy definitions. But I like this definition in that it helps us think more broadly about care in a post-human kind of way, so not just about humans with certain affective or moral positions. But I'm just saying it's not the right definition, right? Definitions are almost always they're just offering a way of thinking, not a fixed objective statement. Now, Anne-Marie Moll is another amazing researcher about care. And she again doesn't necessarily seek to define care either, but she explores care practices. And she argues that, quote, animals may care for their farmers just as much as farmers care for their animals. There's more people walking past behind me this time. She also says that a noisy machine in the corner of a room may give care, and a computer can be good at it too. So does this fit with Tronto and Fisher's definition? Well, why not? Like, a washing machine washing my clothes is doing something that helps make my life more livable, as livable as possible. So then we can kind of see we're not just expanding from humans to other kinds of persons, but then we're expanding to objects and things and our sense of relationality with them, right? So this does make me think of that love languages concept, right? Which I think should be renamed care languages. Maybe it is renamed. Anyway, and I must say I do have a critique about this, so I will leave it aside for now, right? But there's a category called acts of service, right? That people feel loved for, or if they're cared for, when people do things for them. And I have to say, like, I'm an acts of service person. Like, there's different kinds of ways in which people feel cared for in this system, right? Spending time with people, affectionate touch, being listened to, gifts, something, whatever. And everyone maybe likes all of them, but you'll have things that, are your favourite. Now, I have absolutely felt cared for by domestic machines. So I used to live in the country, and at the time, and I moved into the city. But in the country at the time, I had no washing machine, no oven, and no dishwasher. To a house in the city where I had all three. And I think the second day I was there, I had all of them going at once. And I experienced the most overwhelming sense of being cared for and like relief. All these machines doing things for me. Now, I didn't think the machines had any kind of affective consciousness where they actually had some kind of like affection or care for me. But my subjective experience of having tasks being performed for me that make my life more livable, I felt cared for in that sense. Now, this only seems wild or slightly crazy if we think of care as relying on or being rooted in affect, right, in terms of feeling state. But not if we take activity as a definition of care. Then anything and everyone can care, right, or anything. So like sheep growing wool could be understood as care, right? They do this thing that makes life more livable for themselves and for others. Farmers fertilising pastures and the sheep that the sheep graze on is an act of care. Shearers oiling their blades is care too. Soil microbes doing their thing. In the soil, yes. Sheep pooping on pastures, yes. Like knitters making YouTube tutorials on like the perfect cast off. Absolutely, please keep making them, it's great. So you might be thinking, well, maybe this means almost everything we do is care. Another interruption. Does this mean that everything we do is care? Well, yes, it kind of does, actually. It is what humans and non-humans spend most of their lives doing, right? Like getting up in the morning, making your bed, if you get to make your bed, having a shower, brushing your teeth, eating food. You know, so many things are care activities, right? And Puig della Bella Casa suggests that care is the ontological requirement of the relational worlds. It basically means care isn't something optional that we do for ethical reasons. It's baked into what it means to keep relational worlds going, right? So they degrade, they need tending, they need repair. Care is the name for that ongoing maintenance work. So if there's no care, there's no relations. If there's no relations, there just is nothing. So care doesn't have to be warm or benevolent. It can be laborious and ambivalent. It is still doing the basic ontological work of holding relations together. Now, if you're never quite sure what ontology means, me too, but it's about the nature of existence, right? So in this argument, the nature of existence is relationality. Like we don't exist except in relationship. So existence relies on being in relationship, and relationality relies on care, which is sort of doing the things to make life more livable. So the next bit of fibre you pick up, you can have fun thinking about all the acts of care that went in delivering this magic into your hands, and then also like all the acts of care you are going to do with it, and that whatever you make with it, how that is also going to do acts of care or be acts of care or something. It's fun. I do love this topic of care. Anyway, what have I been making? I'm still working on the Berkey, my Berkey mashup. Now, if you've been watching the last few episodes, you'll know I have got to I've been so relieved to get to the boring bit, just knitting the body, because this is the, is that the sleeve? No, that's the bit I'm cutting out because it's too big. I have got sleeves in here somewhere. This is, what am I saying? Oh yeah, I'm kind of in the boring bit, but I got so over this colour work, especially the 3-strand. I was so looking forward to this, but then I was thinking, all I'm going to have to show you for weeks is this, but I am not sure if I'm going to do a video next week. Next week I'm going to a conference, and then I'm flying home, and I'm taking 2 weeks off. So there may not be a video for another 3 weeks. Maybe by that time I may have finished the cardigan. I can just show you the whole thing. But we'll see. I might get one done this week coming, but we'll see. If things are a bit hectic, I'm not going to kind of put a lot of pressure on myself, because I must admit I'm getting pretty tuckered out, coming to the end of 4 months away from home, and just a hectic schedule, which fieldwork is just always kind of hectic in a weird way. So if I don't see you in 3 weeks, see you in 3 weeks. If I see you next week, see you next week. Thanks for watching. Bye.